You start by taking refuge. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Samam Saranam Gacchami. I go for refuge in the Buddha. I go for refuge in the Dharma. I go for refuge in the Sangha. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. So tonight we will start with our customary 15 minutes of seated meditation. And before that, I just wanted to make a statement. And there it is. There is no the mind. There is only mind. Let's chant the Gatha on opening the sutras. This Dharma, incomparably profound and minutely subtle, is rarely encountered, even in hundreds of thousands of millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, hold, and maintain it. May we completely realize the true mind of all Buddhas. Okay, sit back, relax. As the sun is slowly setting on most of us, the dawn is breaking for Minhui.
Thank you, Master Unsan. And he's very correct. It's 6:20 in the morning here in Vietnam. So I had to close the curtains behind me because, yes, I do. My window does face the east and the sun begins to beat through. I appreciate the opportunity to deliver the Dharma talk tonight. And my inspiration comes from some readings I've been doing lately. Lately, I've been studying the teachings of Matsu, whose Dharma name that he took. Ma was his family name. So Matsu basically means master, patriarch. Tzu, the American translator who's translated recently a lot of Zen Chan text, has translated Zu to mean sudden, like sudden awakening. So Master Ma would be called sudden horse because Ma means horse. So anyway, he translates his name a lot of different ways. But when Ma decided to become a monk, he took on a new Dharma name, as many of us do. And the Dharma name that he took on was Dao Yi, which meant like the entire way. And the way it's written in Chinese would be way entire. So David Hinton, in the way he translates things, he always gives the English translation to these Chinese names. So tonight you may hear me talk about Matsu and call him way entire, because that's what David Hinton translates his name to. And it's important to understand why he chose a name like way entire. Because a lot of his teachings were very Taoist. And so the way, that Dao Yi, that name that he chose, is very Taoist in nature. So anyway, just keep that in mind. If I call him way entire, that's because David Hinton translates his name that way. But no, I'm talking about Matsu. So about 1,300 years ago, 1,300 years ago, the story goes like this. This was in the middle of the Tang Dynasty in China. There was a monk named Wei Entire, Dao Yi. He wasn't a master yet. He sat for long days of meditation at the Dharma Transmission Monastery. And the abbot there, Nanyue Huairang, which David Hinton translates as South Mountain. So the abbot there, South Mountain, looked over and he saw Matsu, Wei Entire. And he saw that he was what was translated as a true vessel of the Dharma. So the master, South Mountain, walked over to him and said, my good man, meditating all day like this, what are you trying to do? I'm trying to become Buddha, replied Matsu. South Mountain picked up a brick and began grinding it out on a stone in front of the shrine. What are you doing? Matsu asked. Polishing this brick into a mirror. But how can grinding a brick make a mirror? How can sitting in meditation make a Buddha? And thus began this young monk's enlightenment series, challenged in kind of a weird way by a Zen master. That began the pattern that Matsu began to use as he became more enlightened and how he would challenge his students. And so it was a very important pattern in Chan development. This was a period in the development of Chan. This was like 40 years or so after the death of the sixth patriarch, Huineng. And with the with the story of Huineng and the teachings of Huineng, Chan really began to develop into the Zen that we know it today. And these teachings by Matsu and later his grand student, Lin Ji, became the basis for this Lin Ji or Rinzai type of Buddhism that we call Lin Ji Zen or Rinzai Zen, where meditation is not nearly as important as this sudden awakening that we hope to gain through Kongnans. So all this began more or less with Matsu. And Matsu fit into this category of teachers that Lin Ji also did, and Huangbo did, and Baijiang did, called a category of wild and woolly teachers. They had weird antics and things that they did. They would box people on the ears or smack them in the cheek or whatever as a way of trying to help them wake up. And they had many students. And Matsu was known to have over 100 students that he passed Dharma transmission to. Of course, you can imagine when Chan was in its infancy and a great master like Matsu had 100 students that he had passed Dharma transmission to, they were able to fan out around all of China and have hundreds of students of their own. And so Chan began to grow exponentially about this time. Again, we're talking 1,300 years ago. So if you've ever been to Maine or you've ever been to Vermont, it was about like that. By that, I mean wide open spaces of hills and rivers and not a lot of people around. Take that for what it is. So anyway, to give you an example of some of these teachings of Matsu and how he would train people, here's another one. So, and this is one of my favorites. So Grandmaster Sudden Horse Way and Tire was walking along with his student, 100 Elder Mountain, which is Baijiang. Okay, so Baijiang became one of the great teachers of Lin Ji. So he was a student. Baijiang was a student of Matsu, and so they were out walking along when they saw wild ducks flying over. And the Grandmaster asked, "What is that?" "Wild ducks," replied 100 Elder Mountain. "Where have they gone?" "They've flown away." Matsu pinched 100 Elder Mountain's nose and twisted it really hard until 100 Elder Mountain cried out pain. And the master said, "When did wild ducks ever fly away?" Baijiang wasn't quite awakened yet. And you can see in this little story, wild ducks don't have anything to do with the self. And Baijiang was saying they flew away. Flew away from what? Flew away from him. The world did not revolve around Baijiang. And this was part of the lesson that Matsu was trying to teach this later great master, right? Was that stop thinking of the world as centered on you. Start thinking of yourself as no self, as just part of this fabric that weaves the whole universe, the whole cosmos together. So part of this pattern that Matsu would do was teaching his students in a way that he too had to learn. So back in the 1930s, there was a Chinese historian by the name of Hu Shi, actually very famous Chinese historian, professor at Harvard, studied under some of the greatest historians of the time, but he was native Chinese and he spoke and read Chinese. And so he translated a lot of old documents. He's famous for kind of having written debates with Suzuki Roshi, who was most famous for bringing Japanese Zen to America in the 30s and 40s. So he was a contemporary of Suzuki, and they wrote competing journal articles back and forth. Interestingly enough, Hushi was the historian. He wasn't a Zen practitioner. Of course, we all know as Suzuki Roshi was a great Zen practitioner and Zen master. And so they really often wrote about things from different perspectives. And so it seemed like a debate, but one was talking purely history and the other one was talking purely Zen as a teaching. And so rarely did the two really have a meeting of the minds. Nevertheless, I think Hushi did a great example of describing how a Zen master in these early days of Chan, these early days of Zen, would teach their students to awaken. And so I'm going to read to you a little bit of what Hushi wrote. He said, "First, the master must not make things too easy for the novice. You must not preach to him too plain of a language or in any language at all. This is important so that this is so important that one of the great masters said, I owe everything to my teacher because he never told me anything nor explained anything to me. When the novice comes to the master with some such abstract question as what is the meaning of Zen, or what was the message of Bodhidharma, or what's the message of Buddhism, the teacher will say to him, when I was in Nanking last time, I made a coat weighing 7 pounds. Or he will say to him, my dear fellow, how fine are the peach blossoms on yonder tree. Or he would shout at him in a deafening shout. You might think of Sung San. Cats! Or if he was really deserving, he'd get a box on the ear. So that monk then retires to the kitchen, puzzled and probably burning with shame, or with the pain on his cheek. He stays on, and after a while, will be told, you need to leave this monastery. Go try your luck with some other Zen master. So here begins the second phase of this development of the Zen monks back in the day, which was technically called traveling on foot. So this monk travels from one hill to another, presenting his silly questions to various grand masters presiding over different monastic schools. If he fails to understand, he moves on to the next one. Most of the famous teachers did much traveling during their period of student life. Matsu among them. He traveled for 20 or 30 years on foot, going from monastery to monastery, mountain to mountain. So a monk travels always on foot, carrying only a stick, a bowl, and a pair of straw sandals. He begs all the way for his food and lodging, and often has to seek shelter in decaying temples, caves, and ruined houses by the roadside. He has to suffer the severities of the weather and is subject to all forms of danger and hardship, but all hardships intensify his life. The beauty and grandeur of nature ennobles his mind. Again, I say, think of it kind of as the Green Mountains, or maybe up in Maine. You're traveling around, you really feel that beauty of nature. That's what these monks had to experience as part of their development process. He meets hundreds of troubled souls, more or less by similar problems. He meets kindred souls troubled more or less by similar problems, and he lives with them, befriends them, and they discuss things with him. In this way, his experiences are widened and deepened, and his understanding grows. Then someday, he hears a chance remark of a charwoman, or a frivolous song of a dancing girl, or the chirping of a bird on yonder tree. Or he smells the fragrance of a nameless flower, and he suddenly understands. All of his previous inquiries and searches and experience become correlated somehow, and the problem seems so clear and the solution so evident. The miracle has happened, and he attains his sudden enlightenment. Matsu was constantly telling his students, stop looking elsewhere. Stop looking, but keep going. Stop looking, keep going. You'll find the true Buddha Dharma, the true way, an ordinary mind. Notice, kind of like Master Unsan's question about mind at the beginning, is it your mind or is it just mind? Is it the mind? Matsu just called it ordinary mind. He didn't say it's in your ordinary mind. It's not in my ordinary mind. It's an ordinary mind. What is that ordinary mind? It's it's mind at that origin tissue, at that part of the cosmos where everything is tied together before words are ever put to describe something. It's ordinary life. So these monks had to go through their own sort of suffering. And this is where, interestingly enough, the teachings of the historical Shakyamuni Buddha start to really coincide with the teachings of ordinary mind. These monks who later became, Zen masters in their own right, who were followers of Matsu, they had to learn things. They had to experience the world. They had to experience the grandeur of the mountains and rivers that were a constant part of Zen poetry or Zen artwork at the time. And as they would experience these things, they would suffer the cold, they would suffer hunger, they would suffer sore feet from walking, whatever. The suffering helped them wake up. It was the suffering of Sakyamuni Buddha that helped him wake up. Without it, he would have never awakened. But with it, he did. And the same thing was true in understanding ordinary mind. So finally, the last story I have to give to you goes like this. And it kind of shows the teachings of how Matsu would teach his students. A monk asked Matsu, "I'm done with clever ideas like 4 essential distinctions and hundreds of negations. Please, Master, just point directly at that original mind that Bodhidharma brought from the West." "I'm exhausted today," replied Matsu. "I can't explain it for you. Go ask the master on the other mountain." The monk journeyed away and asked to the next monastery and asked, to which the master said, "Why didn't you ask Matsu? He told me to come ask you. I have a terrible headache today. I can't explain it for you. Go ask Baizhang." So the monk traveled to the next mountain, went to ask Baizhang. Baizhang said, "I've gotten to the point where I don't understand it at all." Disappointed, the monk left again. Finally, he went back to Master Matsu, and he told him what happened. Matsu said, "The first master's head is bright and clear. Baiju's head is dark and mysterious." He didn't give him an answer, because a Zen master can't give you the answer. And that's what Matsu was trying to teach. The answer has to come from within. You got to figure it out yourself. So go travel, experience the world. The more you experience, the more you see the ordinary, the more you'll understand ordinary mind. Stop looking, but keep going. You'll find in everything the ordinary.
Thank you, Minwei. Some of my favorite stories in there. It was everything I could do to not pantomime along with you, like when he was twisting the nose. I really wanted to join in. Anyway, Dharma can't exist as Dharma without the Dharmas, which are equally no Dharmas. Let's chant the Heart Sutra. Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceives all five skandhas are empty and is saved from all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore, in emptiness, no form, no feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva depends on Prajnaparamita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, one dwells in nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on Prajnaparamita and attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajnaparamita mantra. Proclaim the mantra which says Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Let us do our personal dedications of merit. All sentient beings are one seamless body and pass quickly from birth to death. We remember those who cared for us and are gone, those who are ill, those who are at war, who are hungry, and who are in pain. May they heal and have peace. We especially dedicate our service to Brad Hunter, Neintin Sinisuk, John Becks, Mike Gingy Wood. If you would like to add anyone in, here's your chance.
Scott.
Elaine.
All beings in the 10 directions, subject to the greed, hatred, and delusions of themselves and others. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita. And let's recite our faith in practice vow. I will never retreat and will be firm in my mind in this correct Dharma. I will escape from the samsaric cycle of birth and death and definitely will see my original face. I will be sure to inherit the life of insight of the Buddha and save all sentient beings. Brother Hangdal.
The spiritual source shines clear in the light. Branching streams flow on in the dark. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. Birds and trees and stars and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We practice and recite this for all beings in grateful thanks to our many guides along the way.
Let's do the 4 great Bodhisattva vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to help them all. Delusions are countless. We vow to see through them all. Opportunities to awaken are infinite. We vow to embrace them all. The Buddha way is endless. We vow to embody it. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes quickly by, and opportunities to awaken are easily lost. Strive to realize your true nature, and do not squander your time by night or day.